Anyone else? No, one. Just give us the name.
My name is Jack Stanton, and I'm Ralph Stanton's brother. I'm a freelance writer. I knew nothing about what went on out there or what goes on out at site on a daily basis. And then he was in an accident where they falsified doses. They just happened to mishandle the urine for 2 days straight, both the A and B samples of the most affected. There's 16 people coming in. There's evidence of them kicking the head of the lab out because she was complaining about it at a bus stop every time the urine came in. They flew somebody in to look at blood counts from Oak Ridge, and he's like, oh my God. It's like historic, the exposure. They stopped doing blood. Supposed to do it for 2 weeks. Why would you do that? Fecal matter. They gave him a clean bill of health. He was passing uranium. Legally, you're not allowed to do that. At what point? Price Anderson gives contractors indemnity. They don't have any responsibility. Several months before this accident, there was almost a Chernobyl. Contractors were allowed to write it off as something else. Dennis Patterson's book, Whistleblower, describes what happened. These are criminal acts. When you are hiding or destroying evidence, I hear this gentleman over here talking about aliases and how they don't, people have several aliases. You got one ID. Do you have several IDs? Do you have several Q clearance, Sigma clearance? No, you have one. The simple fact is, under the Price-Anderson Act, government doesn't want pay out of it. So they deny claims. They keep people ignorant. This gentleman was talking about, oh, there should be a change. Well, when somebody's in an accident, there should be a pamphlet that they're told their rights. That doesn't happen. You have contractors who are trying to claim that medical done on workers is work product, and that the workers aren't allowed to have their own medical. Now think about that. And then they start sending them to psychologists. This is something, talk to a New York Times reporter about this. It's been going on since the 70s or 80s. You have a problem employee, send them to a psychologist who's on the take. So you have a psychologist who sits there and does whatever the contractor says, so the person will lose their clearance. And they lose their clearance, they lose their medical, they're blackballed from the industry because they got in an accident or they were exposed. What did they do? My brother, Brian Simmons. The other 14 people, actually there are more than 14 who were exposed, but 16 is the official number. But there were actually more based on videotape and everything else that they had to FOIA to get a hold of. Those guys showed up to work to do their job that day. They were good employees. You had people who had Sigma clearances. You don't hear about Sigma clearances because it's top secret. They nuked a lot of them. Wasn't your typical Q clearance. These were the best people who had done stuff. And then you have the head of DOE Idaho going to meetings like this and sitting there allowing BEA and other contractors to sit there and lie. They're able to sit there and keep your information from you. The FOIA guy is laughing that you're never going to get certain information that you're entitled to. And these people, all they did was show up to work. That's what they did. Now, the Department of Labor, I assume, has the ability to oversee when people are committing fraud, committing crimes. Because when you're falsifying information, isn't that a crime? I have a timeline of all the management that worked out there. It goes into their histories, their work histories, their education, their families, where they've been, what they've done. These people who went about falsifying all this information about promotions. In the case of former DOE head, he opened up contractor business. He's president. He's getting, what, $1 million contracts? We're looking the other way. That's pretty great. Pretty great. I didn't know anything about that. Now I have 100,000 pages of documents. That it was a surprise to me. I had workers coming up, bringing me stuff that has nothing to do with that they kept after they left the site and retired. I have maps where there are illegal dumpings that have happened. They're still contaminated. Going down to Twin Falls through the aquifer. Has nothing to do with what I'm doing, but, you know, it's funny, since 1957 in the Price-Anderson Act, that brought contractors in. I think there's one guy, one person who's actually gone to jail. I mean, at what point do you not promote these people? At what point does the government get serious about worker safety and prosecute people who are putting other people's lives in danger? Hanford, Los Alamos, here, Oak Ridge. Why is it that they have higher incidence of cancer? Why is it the workers have higher incidences of cancer? It's because of that. You got medical people. When they were in this accident, they were exposed to 5.5 million Depeartment of contamination. At 20, you should be in a suit. So 5.5 is a little bit more. The DAC reading just kept going up and up and up as they're in the control room, and the contamination level is just exploding. They were in literally one of the worst nuclear accidents since 3 Mile Island. And yet, the whole point of everything was to just hide the damage. See, the thing is, if you weren't part of an accident, you're not entitled to have medical. And that's the whole thing. They're not going to sit there and let you go take medical tests or pay people to see how badly contaminated you are, because it'll prove how bad the accident was. At the time, DEA was coming up on their 2013 multi-billion-dollar contract. They had issues before that. They were allowed to just, like, here's the thing. People out at the site are professionals. So what are the odds that the lung count would be done wrong? The urine would be botched. Fecal samples would be botched. And that the blood work would be stopped. What are the odds of that happening at that professional facility? Now, either all these people that the site has hired are just horrible at their job and should be fired. Or they're not horrible. They were told to do something else. Now, how is it that four tests, like, seriously, would you keep people on staff who are that incompetent? Or would you keep them on and give them promotions because they did exactly what you wanted? That's the whole thing. It's math. It's math. How is it that all four things were allowed to happen and get manipulated? You got people working out there who are exposed, who are having issues. They go to work every day because if they don't, they're in their 40s, they're in their 50s. They go away, they leave that. They're not going to be able to pay the future medical. They're going to lose their homes, their houses, everything. Because the site and the contractors are allowed to do things that are basically illegal. You're the Department of Labor. I used to drive. I have better protections than the nuclear workers. That blows my mind. And also when it's proven. My brother proved in front of NIOSH that his doses were falsified. At that point, there should have been an investigation into the people responsible. Because if they're doing it to him and the other 15 people, who else are they doing it to? You read Dennis Patterson's whistleblower book, you'll see the same names, same people doing the same stuff, which is beautiful about having that book. Because what happened to Dennis and what happened to my brother are two different things. But managers ultimately protected things. And by the way, this isn't about national security, which a lot of times they say they can't do things because of national security. It's because they don't want to admit how bad they are. They work on milestone bonuses out there. If they don't get the work done on time, they don't get the bonuses. That's how managers make their money. My brother filed a lawsuit along with Brian Simmons because they started to get crap. They had a manager approach them a few weeks before this incident. They wanted him to falsify 21 type 1 work procedures. These are felonies, by the way. Brian and Ralph said they're not going to go to jail for this guy, so they reported him. That manager wanted to ask them if they could do it. So they reported it to the main guy who was just new on the job and who also oversaw everything that happened later with the cover-ups. And then they sent him down to New Mexico for the accident down there. Some interesting reporting on that. It kind of follows a pattern, you see. So anyway, they wanted to falsify, commit felonies. And you know what happened to those 25 type 1 work procedures? I know the people they forced them to sign at the threat of their jobs. Why would they do that? Work wasn't done. There's so many issues with this. So many issues. When you sit there and you give contractors no responsibility. If they blew up the site, it's the government that's paying for it because of the Price-Anderson Fund. They're going to do whatever they can to make money, but, you know, for the zipper incident, they have a logbook. Logbook was present when the accident happened. Now, we would agree that that's one of the most secure sites in the world. Security does a fantastic job not letting anybody in or letting anything out. Somehow those logbooks just disappeared with all the information. And during that accident, they said, oh, we've got him in our head. That kind of medical information. People who aren't trained medical. And also the doctor out there, these guys were in a nuclear accident. with horrendous readings. In the DOE report, they put it down as all 16 people just happened to get a case of influenza. The flu? Seriously? You're part of a nuclear accident? And you just got the flu. That's why everybody's throwing up. Not the radiation that they were exposed to, of course. The camp went off. For the first time in 5 years, the outside camp to the outside world. It's in the DOE report. I don't know about you, but what are the coincidences that the constant air monitor that leads to the outside world went off for the first time in 5 years? Since, right after a nuclear accident, right after, somehow DEA decided it was a radon leak. Never went off before with a radon leak. Did that day, right after a nuclear accident. Everyone caught the flu right after a nuclear accident. That day. Nobody else did. Oh, the doctor didn't test for the flu, by the way, but that was his conclusion. It's in the DOE report. Why would somebody at the DOE okay that kind of report? That's what's happening. I could sit there and, hate to say it, I can go on for hours, because when you study something and you research and you have 100,000 pages of documents, you can go on forever, and you shouldn't have to. They didn't have showers available at the facility. I tracked down the guy who probably put the plate in that caused the exposure 30 years before. I tracked him down. He's the only one who's still alive from the people who worked at Zipper. Do you know one thing? They worked with contamination suits. They had showers at the facility. I tracked down people who said there are showers out at the site, that the cisterns below, which are treated as waste, are full at the end of the fiscal year. And they're not cleaned out because, I don't know, contractors want to pocket the money and then ask the DOE for more money. Why the hell wouldn't you have operational showers? That's like nuclear accident 101. They were swabbing my brother down with handy wipes, the types that you get at Kentucky Fried Chicken, which closes the pores and locks the contamination in. It doesn't clean it off. He took contamination home because he didn't have a shower. Their vehicles were contaminated. Their homes were contaminated. The nuclear signature coincides with the nuclear signature of the accident. Meanwhile, you have DEA, you have all these managers talking about, oh, it can't be from the nuclear accident, even though it had the signature. Brian Simmons and Ralph had to spend tens of thousands of dollars to get independent labs because, you know what? Government threatens to withhold funding to most labs who work with them if they don't follow and play with the playbook. So anyway, there's so many issues, and you gotta do something. I'll tell you one thing. Make people criminally responsible when they do things like this, because they are killing people. You put people in jail for killing people. You deny them health care. You make it a slow death. You literally make it a slow death.
Okay.
That's just BS. You know? Like, seriously. Then you take away their careers. Take away, my brother's driving a truck. He's one of the smartest people I know. It's because he's not in the nuclear field anymore. You have Brian Simmons, who, when he was having issues that are associated with exposure, they weren't going to give him any help, because to help him would be to admit it, to admit it would be to somehow lose financially. EA got a clean bill of health. They got their safety bonus, I think 100% for 2011, despite having one of the biggest nuclear accidents since 3 Mile Island in this country. What was safe about that? So anyway,